Okay, now we're going to talk about independent and dependent variables. So an independent variable, which I will forevermore indicate with an IV. The best definition for an independent variable, I think the simplest definition for an independent variable, is that it's simply the treatment condition. So it's what's being manipulated in a study. All right, another way of thinking about this is that it can be under the control of the researcher, but not always. Another, I think, really easy way of thinking about it, especially for probably the first 10 weeks of this semester, is that it's the group that a person has been assigned to. All right, so the independent variable, again, it's the treatment condition. And if this seems super quick and you're not quite sure that you got the hang of this yet, don't worry. We are going to be going through this lesson after lesson after lesson all semester. By the end of the semester, you are going to know what an independent variable is in your sleep. A dependent variable, which forevermore I will be indicating with a DV, is essentially the response. All right, another way of thinking about it is that it is what's being measured. And another way of thinking about it is it's your data. So whenever I can, I'm going to try to give you guys memory devices or quick ways for you to remember things. Dependent variable begins with a D. Data begins with a D. Dependent variable is your data. All right, so independent is your treatment condition. Dependent is your response. And then I'm just really quickly going to mention this idea of a subject variable. A subject variable is another type of independent variable. Sometimes we call this a classification variable. And again, it's another type of independent variable, but it's not something that's being manipulated or being controlled by the researcher. It's not a treatment per se. It's typically, a subject variable is typically something like a demographic. All right, it's something that's characteristic of the subjects themselves that we might be interested in studying, but it's not something that is a treatment per se. So an example of this would be gender. All right, so we often call it, a subject variable is a subcategory of independent variables. But again, it's not something that we can control. It's typically something that has to do with the subjects themselves. So it's their gender, it's their year in school, it's their religion, their ethnicity, etc. All right, so to try to apply these, I have a few examples over here. So first, let's imagine that we're interested in studying the relationship between alcohol and speech. Alcohol and speech. So which one of those variables do you think is the treatment and which one of them is the response? Alcohol and speech. All right, so hopefully you have figured out that alcohol is the independent or the treatment condition, and speech is the response or the dependent variable. All right, another example. Let's say we're interested in the relationship between temperature and aggression. Which one of those is the treatment and which is the response? Is temperature the treatment or the response? Hopefully you're on the same page with me. Temperature is the treatment, and so aggression would be the response or the dependent. Our third example, let's say we're interested in the relationship between gender and IQ. Which one of those is the treatment and which one is the response? So I'm going to work this one backwards. So clearly, I think, hopefully clearly, IQ is the response. But is gender a treatment per se? In this case, we're going to call it an independent variable, but it's really a subject variable. All right, so it's not really a treatment, but it's definitely an independent variable. And then last but not least, we're going to do the relationship between age and happiness. This is similar to the previous one. So which one of those is a group or a treatment condition or a demographic, and which one of those is a response? And hopefully you can figure out that age is the independent and happiness is the dependent. All right, so again, if this was really quick and you're not quite sure you have the hang of it yet, don't worry. I will go through the independent and the dependent variable in pretty much every example we do all semester. So you'll have plenty of opportunity to figure this out.